Hello, folks. My name is Jim Worthen. The show is Worthen One-on-One. You will see underneath us as time goes on when we replay. This show will start this Friday night, and then it goes during the week on Channel 17. But that's, as my sainted brother who loved jazz would say, that's just the first verse of the song. And we're on TV, SB, cable, we're on YouTube, we're on several Facebooks. I won't go into them because you can't write quick enough, but you watch underneath our pictures and you'll see some of the places that you can see us, record us. The reason for that is, for instance, today my guest has people that are going to be very interested in broader than the south coast of Santa Barbara. Sometimes I have people that are guests that are going to be of interest as far as New York City. It's a big city in the east, I'm told. That's a Gutfeld kind of joke. I like Greg Gutfeld, you'll have to forgive me. So you can see where you can tell people to go to see our show and spread the word if you like it, or if you hate it and you want to irritate your friends. My guest today I met about 3 months ago, when she came to the Republican Central Committee, which I'm a member, and gave her presentation for an office she wanted to run for. And some nut in the crowd moved to endorse her. And then I got a second to that move, and we have endorsed her for the Assembly. It wasn't a hard endorsement. I mean, it was unanimous. When you hear her background and her concern for our community and her concern for the things that the current incumbent has done and will do, you'll hopefully be delighted and do what you can to jump on the bandwagon. Sari, did I pronounce it right? S-A-R-I, sorry. No, Sari.
Yes.
Your campaign manager threatened me if I said sorry. She did, didn't she?
Yes.
She's evil, wonderful person. You came to the conclusion that you wanted to run. Now we're going to work into this after you give us the main reason you wanted to run. We'll work into your background, which is a background of, maybe I'll take the line of why you wanted to run. It's a background of community service. So tell me, not using community service is the only reason.
Well, I've been retired now for 5 years and took care of my mother, and during those years, and she has passed away. So I found a void. And so I wasn't real political for most of my life, other than knowing, about things. And I did register when I was 18 as a Republican. But I had an older sister that kind of woke me up about, I think it was about 2012, 13, 14, right around there. Obama was in his second term. And she said, I really need to pay attention to what's going on around me. So I did. And things kind of started happening. First of all, I started seeing how some of the things that Obama was doing was tearing the middle class apart. And that concerned me. Things happened with the Obamacare, and
so you weren't political, but you were applying your education, life's experience
Right.
to what even the presidency was doing, which most people think that has no influence on me.
Oh, it does, very much so. I also worked in government for 30 years.
Oh, you were one of those evil bureaucrats.
Yeah.
We'll get into
And
that.
yes. Well, my sisters, on the other hand, in fact, I've got 5 sisters, were always telling me, why don't you go work in the private industry? Because I was into computers and that kind of thing and really good at it. But I always told them, no, I need to stay with the counties because they need me. Because sometimes they didn't hire very
Bright people.
bright, that's a good way to put it, thank you. So I felt, we had to keep, there had to be some that really knew how to do the work, really knew what was going on, really made things happen. Because it is a bureaucracy. And so that
5 sisters. How many brothers?
5.
Who were tougher on you? Or where did you fit in the...
Okay, so there's 11 of us.
Yep.
I had 5 older and 5 younger, so I'm right in the middle. And I have 1 older brother, it's a year older than me, and I was very close to, I still am close to this day. And then 4 older sisters. And then I have 1 younger sister that's just behind me, and then 4 younger brothers. So I was used to being teased, but I was used to also giving it out. So I kind of got both sides, both sides.
I hate to ask this because you're going to forget somebody. Without mentioning their names, tell the kinds of things they're doing and have done in their life, jobs and...
Sure. And it's interesting, there's 11 of us, but we're all different. All different in personalities. Some of us, though, connect. So my oldest sister and there's 2 sisters that kind of are alike, and then I'm alike one, and then the other 2 were alike, so you can kind of see that. But like I said, all my sisters right now are very devoted Republican, conservative Republicans. They're in it too.
Bright
with me.
women, yeah.
Yes. And
any stupid men?
When I won't say names though, but most of my brothers are very concerned about what's going on.
Now, your Hispanic name, but you're many generations on both sides. Mother born in Orchid?
My mother was born in Guadalupe.
Guadalupe. Father in Pozo?
Napomo was my father.
Where's-
Now, the grandfather, my mother's father, was born in Pozo.
Where's Pozo?
That's over behind Lake Lopez Lake in San Luis Obispo County.
I've been there,
Yeah.
but I didn't know.
Yeah, it's kind of back behind Lopez Lake.
So, really, Tri-County bred and born.
Yes, because my mother's mother was born in, my mother's mother was born in Ballard.
Ballard.
Yeah, and they used to tell me stories of her father had horses and a buckboard and would transfer hay or things like this from one place to another, and that was his job.
We forget that it's just one generation to buckboards, carriages, it's one, for me, long generation, but it's a lot of people that remember that or were told about it, and it was a easier going time. It's not like today you get in the car and I've got to go to Santa Maria, wait, I've got to be there in 40 minutes, wait, the best I've ever done is 53, and the pressure of that, although I once did it in 13. I had a special car, it had S24, State Senator 24, and the Highway Patrol didn't stop you, so 120 was nothing from Santa Maria to Santa Barbara. And so you come from this large family. Did we get through all the different things they're doing, or did I cut you off?
Well, most of my siblings have retired. The older ones. The younger ones are still working.
Were they all in government?
No.
Any in government?
Well, I have a brother that works for a school district, but no, I think I was the only one.
All out in the private world.
Yeah. Well, actually, no, because my oldest sister was a school bus driver, so that would put her in government. Yeah.
So you're in the middle of this family, local public schools, obviously 11 children, unless you're Elon Musk, you didn't go to private academies.
Well, actually, bless my mother. I'm so grateful. She put us all in Catholic school. How she afforded, I didn't know, but she did, and I'm very grateful for that. I did go to a public high school. All my children went to public
Elementary
schools.
was.
Yeah, my elementary was.
It's.
Catholic high school.
I know people in my life history, very well-educated, important people, who took their Protestant kids out of public school and sent them to Bishop Diego, for instance, or
right.
To a Catholic school, because they wanted them educated and they wanted them disciplined, which sadly the public schools can't do. I don't want to blame it on the teachers, but the fear of lawsuits and irate parents who aren't disciplining their children. Spare the rod and spoil the child, or said it.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
No, I remember very well. Yeah, it did on me too. When I was in second grade, I wasn't doing my homework apparently, so the sister had to take me into the bathroom, and I had
ruler.
Probably the long stick ruler, and had to give me a little spanking. Really didn't hurt, but I acted like it did, and so I guess I never had a problem doing my homework.
Yeah. Well, I brought my mother to tears once when I was about 8 years old. She took me in the bathroom, had the belt, started hitting me, and I started laughing, and she said, "Why?" I said, "You have the wrong end of the belt. The buckle's hitting me."
Oh, shoot.
But she
felt bad.
Crying, devastated.
Exactly, yes.
It's a nice spanking. She was all of a sudden brutalizing and scarring me.
It's true. That's true. And it didn't hurt me. I mean, it wasn't really bad anything.
A great football player once told the story of his mother disciplining physically when he was in high school and athlete, and she would take him out on the front lawn in front of all the neighbors, and he punish him. He loved her dearly. He was telling this story, I think, on a nighttime show, and I saw it, and he just couldn't speak highly enough. And he said, finally, I figured I could outrun her, and she'd start to hit me, and I'd run. So she took me out one day, and she had her hand behind her back, and she started to take the belt in her right hand, and she said, "By the way, you can outrun me, but you can't outrun this," and held up her pistol. And this is a man completely, madly in love with his mother.
Yes.
And it's just, so there's discipline at a certain level.
Well, and you're right. It was all just a basic discipline is what it was. It wasn't anything that was hurtful.
Well, and it has to match the person. And at 8, I needed more than the belt.
Well, and I told you my mother really raised us to love each other. So we all love each other all the time. And it's how she raised us.
I had some liberal friends who said, well, you spank your children, you have a spanky spoon, and you use, corporal punishment on your son and daughter, and I don't understand how they're so nice. I said, because I never ended without putting it down, hugging them, and say, I love you.
Right.
I said, I know too many men who have never hugged their children and said, I love you.
Right.
It's below their masculinity, and
Right.
it's not.
No, it's not.
So now that we've bragged on our parents and ourselves, you have like almost an addiction to education. Walk us through what I first saw was you didn't go out and take great student loans for your first 2 years in college, and you got 2 degrees. How did you do that?
Well, I wanted to go to college. I was talking about it after high school, but my parents couldn't afford it. Because
Where did you go to high school?
Santa Maria High School. And, my mother budget, she was the best budgeter there ever was. And we didn't have a lot of money. In fact, none of my brothers and sisters, except for one brother, has a bachelor's degree. Mm-hmm. Nobody else really went to school, but they're wonderful people, just wonderful.
Well, with 11 children, again, you have to be Elon Musk to
Right, yes. Well, so eventually I got married and started my family out of high school, and I had 3 sons. And when the third one was born, I was almost 28, and when he was...
You hadn't gone to college yet?
No, I hadn't.
Oh, 28.
I stayed home for 12 years with my children.
Really?
And
a real mother.
Yes, I was able to, thank God, at that time. My husband had a good job. He worked in the oil fields. He went out and got himself a good job, and it was good paying. So around 30, I decided my youngest was old enough to go to preschool, so I put him in the preschool there at the college, at Hancock, a junior college, and started school. And
at Hancock?
At Hancock. And I ended up getting an AS in information systems because I really liked the computers. And then I only needed to take a few more classes to get an associate's, an AA in arts. And so I went and completed those courses too and got 2 degrees. And then I got a job at a school district. And actually I was there really as a secretary. My dream was to be a school secretary.
My daughter made a terrible mistake because she was in an occupation where they provided health, child care.
Right.
And she took Maddie, and 3 years old or something, and put him in child care. And I was with her, and she was going to a doctor's appointment right after, and we were getting in the car. I said, "Where's Maddie?" she was so focused that she forgot her child.
No.
You never did that.
No,
But
I never done that.
I know other parents have.
I was forgotten at home when I was an infant. I mean, I'm talking a little baby put on the couch in the corner so I wouldn't roll off because I was that little. And they took off, and then they realized I wasn't with them. They had to go back home and get me. So.
Well, as I say, each parent thinks, I'm the only one that did that. And
No, it's
almost
happened.
all of them have done it several times.
Yeah, no, I never forgot my children.
So you're 30 years old, and you're going to Hancock. Mm-hmm. What excited you study-wise?
Well, I knew I wanted to go back to work. And so one of the best reasons is go to school and get educated. And like I said, I had taken shorthand and typing and those courses in high school, so I knew shorthand and everything. So I ended up getting a job as secretary. But I started falling in love with computers. They were just coming out. The desktops were just coming out. And I had a real knack for, I learned DBase too, which was command-driven. They had word processing that was command-driven. Then they had menu-driven, different programs. So I would do both those at the same time. I got special permission. They said they knew how good I was. I worked in the computer lab there a little bit too, part-time. And they let me take those classes at the same time, so I'd have to turn my mind on the command-driven to the menu-driven, but I loved it, just loved it.
Well, you were then ahead of where I am now.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Well, so anyway, I got a job at school districts, and then I ended up getting into closer into their information systems because it was very new, and we just had desktops, so I'd help with the desktops and watch the computer. But what happened to me was I started using my database talents, and we had systems at each school independent that did put the students in and all that stuff. And then we had a system where they electronically, did all their scores of their SAT scores, testing. We had that data. And children did have IDs that were assigned to them when they got in. And so I says, well, why don't we take the data out of each school's computer and we would modem it through the phone, the data over, and drop it, okay?
Now, were you
At
working
night.
for the school then?
I was working for the school.
Okay.
And so I said, let's see if we can do this. So we did, and then I would go into those files and put them all together. And then I'd have to filter them out so that if a child was in two schools because they hadn't taken them out of that school, but they're here, then I'd let them know and they'd take them out. So I'd know what school they were in at that moment. And I put it all together. And then I decided, well, I can link this up to the data that they're keeping in the migrant students or their test scores. So I started linking all that together with the databases, because databases have different, you link them all together. And then the state were requiring a certain format of information, and I knew I had that format. So I sent a little disk this big to the state, and it was the first time they ever got electronic data, because usually we'd just give them papers of all the data, and they got it. And I remember they telling me that was great, and I didn't really get an award, but they were really happy I did that.
I just figured something out. You're awful smart.
Well,
I think they call it genius.
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
Well, there's genius and there's genius. There's the number and there's the blend of being bright and common sense.
Well, my mother told me later, when I was an adult, that my 8th grade teacher told her that I was very bright. But do you know what I realized going through school? Not only being very immature, because I started at 4, and I was always behind as far as maturity, but I still made friends with kids. But also, I was dyslexic.
Say?
Dyslexic.
Oh.
Didn't realize it. I had a hard time spelling.
How did you find out?
Well, when I was in 7th grade, they had spelling bees, and I just hated being a spelling bee because I couldn't spell words sometimes. So by the time I got through high school, because I learned shorthand, which was really nice because it wasn't real spelling, but I could do it and read it. And then when I got in the working world, I had to type up letters and things, so I would really focus and concentrate on words and how they're spelled. And through all that, I trained myself on how to spell words. And I trained myself how to correct that dyslexia. And I did.
You keep bringing out stories, I shouldn't be taking so much of the time, but was your dyslexia ahead of yourself, or was it just muddled?
I think it was muddled. Because I could read and do things. It's just the spelling was the problem.
My son was diagnosed as dyslexic, and I used to have to write a 1-minute script for my radio show.
Yes.
And it had to be done so it could be played promoting the next day. Yellow pad, got to be on the air, read it on the tape to be played, looked at it, and words were reversed, words were left out, and yet I'd said it, listened to the tape, I'd said it perfectly. That form of dyslexia where your mind is acting in a different way, but it's still a straight line. So you're now, and your husband's okay with this.
Right.
You're
I'm going to school, and like I said, and when I went to work, that's
where
what I
do you
realized.
go after Hancock, and
Well,
how old were the kids?
Okay, so when I went back to school, my oldest was 10. The next one was, well, actually, he'd be older. He was 12. He'd have been 12. And my second one is 5 years younger.
Makes him 7.
Yeah.
Good with math.
And then my youngest was 4 years younger than that, so he was like 3. So that's when I started. Okay, so and I still did all the housework and picked him up and got him places. And
You weren't working as a secretary or anything at that time?
I was part-time as a clerk when I was at Hancock.
What kind of place were you working? Was it the school?
It was
or-
the school administration office.
So you've been
Yeah.
on the government,
Yes.
what's it called? The gut fellow uses teat. You've
okay,
been
yeah.
sucking at the government teat all this time.
Yes, yes. But like I said, I then started swaying over into the technology, so I ended up, and I was secretary also to someone in the administration. And then I kind of went over to technology, and they created an actual technology department because the computers were coming out and everything. So I would help our technician hang wire and, set up the MOUs and put in the wires and hook them to our server and all that. And then I was starting to learn software, and that was my love, was the software.
Hancock to where?
Well, after Hancock, I knew I had a friend that I met, and we've been friends ever since. And she was just going to Hancock for fun, because her son was the same age as my second son. And I talked her into going and getting your associates with me. Let's do it together. So she did. And then I finished up a second associate, and she was done. She said, to this day, she says she lives, precariously through me, she says. When I was part-time as a clerk, I suggested her, when I left to be a secretary, I suggested her, to consider, and she interviewed and got it. She had that job from that day until she just retired a couple years ago. That same job, but that's her. So I decided, I told her no. When I got my associates, I knew I wanted a master's. That was already said, done. I knew.
You got to get your bachelor's first.
Well,
You're skipping so far
I
ahead.
know. So anyway, I did get a bachelor's. They had classes out at Vandenberg Air Force Base, Laverne University. So I went out
What
there.
university?
Laverne University.
At Vandenberg.
Yeah, it was a pilot out. The campus is in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I was going to say
Yeah, that's where their campus is, but they had a pilot program.
Because of the military, yeah.
I think so. But I was able to get on base, and I took my classes and enjoyed them tremendously and got a bachelor's in business management.
So,
And I thought, I don't need to go in technology because I'm learning so much technology because I'm doing technology. So I learned programming. I learned all my stuff through
You were still
work.
doing that at the school district.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
And carrying 8 years, 10 years to get your bachelor's?
My bachelor's, it did take, oh God, now I'm getting my dates back. It did take me more than 2 years because I would take a class. I couldn't
I was
just
teasing 8 or 10
Yeah, I
years.
couldn't do a-
You
I couldn't do a
performed
full
so
loan.
quickly. So you're still with the school board.
Yes.
And you now go for your master's where?
Well, after my bachelor's, I stopped. And I ended up I left the school district and got hired at Santa Barbara County. And I worked in their IT department for 3 years down here and commuted.
So you were one of those terrible IT people that had to straighten out everyone else.
Yes, clean up their machines when they got a bug on it, and you have to re-clear it completely because, once you get a virus.
Are you still good at that?
I haven't done that in a while because I really went into the software side of things.
Okay.
But
Forget giving me my phone. I was going to have her fix it, Mike, but I'll find somebody else.
Oh, so anyway, but yeah, I was on help desk. I taught classes. I built servers, built desktop computers, put them on desks, got people started. So that was when I ended up going to Santa Barbara County. But I didn't start, and I finished my bachelor's when I was there. Then I waited because my husband all of a sudden says, I want to go to school.
Oh.
So it's like, okay. But we realized we couldn't do it at the same time because it was just too much on us. So when one was doing it, the other could kind of pick up the workload and the kids. And so he decided to go back, and he was laid off in the oil fields because whatever. So I said, well, yeah, go back to school. And then he took care of the kids, and he learned how to do the laundry, and he learned how to do the checks and go grocery shopping. And so it was really a nice role change. And then he'd call me at work, how do I get my kids? They all have to be at different places at these times. And so I have to tell him how to figure that out. But it was great. So he went and got his associates, and then he got a bachelor's. Then I was able to start my master's. At that time, I was still at Santa Barbara County. I'd moved to probation department, North County, because the commute and everything was getting too much. So I worked in probation, North County, through IT.
So you weren't in IT specifically
Yeah, I was.
anymore?
No, I was still the IT person
IT
for
probation.
probation. Yeah. In fact, I set up their scanner for fingerprints, that machine. I set that up and would take care of
So
everybody's.
when they swept up a person who didn't show up for probation, they say, oh, it's her fault.
Yeah, well, I took care of their computers and made sure they were connected and working and all that. And yeah, I did all that. And then I moved to mental health in North County. And so I worked there for about 6 years and loved it, took care of their machines. I was their IT person and their programs. We installed healthcare programs, and HIPAA and all that was coming through.
So these IT assignments exposed to you what probation was doing and their
Yep.
problems,
Yep.
mental health,
Yep.
what was failing in that.
Yeah. Well, we would get, I was part of the team that decided what program they could get. And I set up their programs, and I trained all the physicians and doctors and stuff on how to use it, because they had like progress notes and things like that they had to track, and they did it all electronically. Because it used to just be done on paper, but the papers would go away, and then there was nothing on the page.
You're living in Santa Maria most of this time?
Yes, I was always in Santa Maria. So I came back up to North County because the commuting for 3 years in IT, main IT, was a lot.
You lived down in Santa Barbara?
No, commuted.
Never?
Every day. 3 hour and 15 minutes, one way.
You don't drive fast enough.
I don't have one of those special cars.
At some point, you left the county of Santa Barbara. What happened there? And you weren't fired, but
No.
what caused you to?
Okay. Again, reason I would leave my next step is really for promotions. I would get stuck doing a job, and then they'd hire this on me and put this on me because I was really good and I could do a lot, but I would never get a promotion. So when my coworkers were only doing this and I was doing this, I'm thinking, wait, something's not right here.
Yeah.
So
Same pay or less, depending on tenure on your.
Right. So I ended up starting my master's. And then
Through what school?
Through Chapman University.
Chapman. Okay.
They had a pilot program here in Santa Maria. So I went there, but this time I decided I wanted to get my master's in organizational leadership because I felt that was more important, because I already had the IT talent, but I really wanted to see about management and leadership, and because it was really bad in government. Because they would always promote the person that was probably the worst one to promote. And then there was no leadership, really. So I ended up moving to Monterey County and worked there.
Before you go there, because you're now got your master's and.
No, I haven't. I just started my master's.
Okay. But what you're teaching me is that it isn't, you go to UCLA,
Right.
you go to, it's finding the school that fits your needs as an individual.
Right, because I could work
So
full
that's-
time
yeah.
and go to school.
So that's what we're teaching the people around you and my listeners and viewers, that it's not a, education isn't a cookie cutter. It isn't one way or the highway.
Right.
Because a lot of people get caught, and if they are not able to make the right classes and everything, they get frustrated and drop out.
Right.
And you just made it work.
They had classroom and they also had online. So when I went up to Monterey and worked for the
You
county.
moved there?
I lived, actually my oldest son lived there, so I lived with them for 2 years and continued my master's. And a lot of it was online, and once in a while there'd be a class I had to take, like a Thursday evening class. So I would just leave and drive to class, and sometimes I'd get at 5 in the morning and drive back for my last day, or I'd take the day off ahead of time, so it just depended. And but I was successful and I got my master's.
Now in Monterey, you didn't get involved with the military there, like their language school, any
No.
technology there?
No, I didn't. Though Monterey did offer school assistance, they would pay so much, every quarter. So I took advantage of that, and they ended up really paying for my master's, and
That
it worked
Monterey
very well.
County.
Monterey County.
They probably had to do that because of Fort Ord and the language school that the military was giving their people
Yeah,
money
it was a perk. It was something they
Yeah.
had. So I took advantage of that, but I enjoyed working. I worked at their health department because I already had the mental health background, so I worked there for 2 years.
Still technology.
Yes. Then they opened up a job that was so perfect for me because this is where I was wanting to go. They were going to install a new ERP system, Enterprise Resource.
System.
Yeah, it's what it means is it's multiple systems that are connected. Okay, so they were going to create this HR, payroll, benefit, throw in your retirement tracking, and learning development and financials, and do their whole financial budgeting and all that with this one system. So I applied and I got the job because I had implemented other systems before, so I had the experience. And they picked me, and I was there 10 years.
Well, you had to
Implemented
move
it.
up to,
Yeah, and that was my move up, and that was my dream job, and
What
I
did-
achieved my goals.
but you didn't move to Monterey.
Yes, I
You
did.
commuted.
I commuted 2 years.
Yeah,
And
from
then-
my favorite author's
Yes.
town,
Yes, John Steinbeck.
Salinas.
Yes, and but then I ended up buying a condo, and we still had our home here, and then my husband, he worked at probation at the time. He had already gotten his bachelor's in criminal justice, and then he was been working on his master's, and he finished up his master's after me.
In Santa Barbara County probation.
Yes, when he was in Santa Barbara County probation. Well, he was juvenile. He was a juvenile institution officer.
Oh.
Yeah, for about 10 years, and was wonderful at it. And then he got his PPR credential, which is a counseling type credential for schools. And so he went up there and used that and got a job. And so we both now were living up there, and we didn't have the house here anymore. But then my son ended up moving here and becoming principal at San Maria High, which was fine because Joe and I were settled up there. So we stayed
Your
there.
son
My oldest son was principal of 10 years at Santa Maria High School. Did wonderful, wonderful things there.
had the same name,
Yep,
Domingues?
yep, yep. And so anyway, so we stayed up there, and then my husband's father had dementia really bad. It was getting really bad. So he came back up here, and we bought a condo up here, and we had a condo down there, up here, down, whatever, we had condo. So he came down here to live and take care of his father and help his mom, which was great. He retired. And it was, our financial manager said, "Oh, you guys will be fine. You can retire." So then I stayed up there 2 more years, and then I ended up retiring.
So how many years did you spend in the IT and financial department of Monterey County?
10 years. 10 years.
10 years.
And then 2 years at health department.
You've got a heck of a lot of experience, because
Yeah.
even though everything you say is IT oriented, you had to understand what the grunts, the lower bureaucrats and even the person that was answering the phone, you had to understand what they were going through so you could make their jobs easier using IT, right?
Yes, I did. I had to understand.
Do I express that right?
That was perfect. I had to know how HR worked. I had to know how payroll worked. I had to know the benefits, all that, so that, because I would configure it so that when people were set up, benefits and everything would pay out correctly. And then if something wasn't working right, I needed to know what they needed so I can reconfigure the system or make sure they're in there right to get everything paid out right.
And you now, some way, maybe, have you been drinking a lot? Some way you are wanting to take on the problems of the state of California to the benefit of the citizens of the 37th Assembly District?
37
And who is in that job now?
Greg Hart.
Oh,
he's the one.
I don't think Greg Hart has ever seen a tax or a budget that he understood or analyzed. He just voted the way.
Well, maybe that's why he votes.
Yeah,
he just votes with everybody. All the Democrats. This is what he votes.
So he was just elected to that when there was a reapportionment of the assembly districts, and he got a free pass district, a Democrat district. Mike Stoker took him on, but it was a heavily Democrat district. It still is. So, do you love Democrats as much as you love Republicans?
I love everybody. Okay.
Individuals.
I do not hate people. I do not hate, and I'd always been that way because my mother raised me that way. But I had a 12-year-old grandson that also told me that he does not hate because he was bullied. So it was like, wow, he's just amazing. But what's happened to me when I retired after my husband, I took care of my mother. Well, his father, my mother, passed away, so I have a void. And as you can see, I like to be busy, and I like to take challenges and this kind of stuff. So
you're back living in Santa Maria?
I'm in Santa Maria. Somebody approached me to run for assembly. I brought my husband to a meeting so they could explain everything. And I'm ready. I'm ready to take on the challenge because I have seen, like I said, I have a sister who's very political, part of the Tea Party, back when it was there. And she told me, pay attention, pay attention. Then I took care of another elderly lady while I was taking care of my mother. And she was from Poland. And when she was 14, they were worrying about the Germans coming, but the Russians ended up coming to their house, banging on their door. Next thing you know, her father's in the corner with the rifles pointed at him, and they were told to get one suitcase, we're leaving. And she ended up spending 4 years in Siberia in a concentration camp. And she told me that when I took care of her, her mind was very good. She told me everything that happened, and I asked her, I said, why? Because she was Catholic. Her father had land, and they were fine. She looked me straight in the eye, and she said, capitalism. My father was a capitalist, and Russia did not. The communists didn't want that. And I thought, wow. And she is
There is a difference.
There is a difference. So she was all worrying because she could see things changing. And she told me before she died, don't vote Democrat because they want socialism and it's going to be communism. And, and this elder lady, 96 years old, telling me that, I thought, okay, yeah.
Yeah, for our Democrat friends that we love and care for, they've been kind of like the old story of the frog in the water.
One of my favorite parables.
And it just, the water gets hotter and hotter till it's boiling, and
then
the
you're
frog
dead.
is killed.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. Have been doing.
That's the capitalist system turning communist. So let's talk about some of the issues that you would find difference with Greg Hart. The overall state spending. Are we spending enough? Are we misspending? Are spending too much?
Oh, we're misspending.
Huh?
We're misspending. First of all, I don't even think we have a balanced budget. And you know, you have to have a balanced budget. I mean, that's part of our Constitution, is to be responsible with the monies. And you know, when you don't have enough money to buy something or to spend, then what you do is you have to cut back. You stop going to eating out and you cook at home because it's cheaper. You know, there's things you do, because I learned that from my mother. And nobody wants to sacrifice to stop spending to bring our budget. No, they want to keep increasing taxes, increase this tax, increase that. People only have so much money themselves to be giving their taxes away. And nowadays, it almost seems like we don't even know what our taxes are going to. And some of the things it is going to, I don't want my taxes going there, but they're going there. And they're telling us what we have to do. That is not part of our Constitution. And therefore, something's not right. So there's lots of little signs out there that, I mean, you go to the gas pump, why is it so expensive? You go to the grocery store, it's unbelievable how much things cost now.
Yeah, the gimmick that the government uses is, inflation only went up 5%. Now, they forget it's cumulative.
Yes.
It may have gone up 5% in the previous year, but it's gone up 20% in the previous 2.5 years.
Right.
And so you have to, whatever you're buying today costs 20% more than it would have 2.5 years ago. And families can't afford that.
Well,
and increased taxes, you say?
Well, they're finding ways to find money from us, more money, instead of let's cut back and budget. You know, let's budget. I think a lot of the things our state does can be handled within the communities. I think a lot of that stuff belongs to the community and what the communities can afford and take care of their citizens.
Closer to the local government.
More local than the big government.
I always liked that because I always wanted my government official to be close enough that I could get my hands around his throat while we're talking to make sure he understands. Which you, of course, can't even talk to the governor. He's in China. Or did he get back?
I think he's back, but you're right. What the heck is he doing in China? That's just, you know, just unbelievable. But everything they do, they're pushing down from the state down. They're dictating what we're supposed to do, and especially like with our schools. The curriculum in our schools is changing, and it's mandatory. And it's, wait a minute, as a parent, a grandparent, aunt, I do not like what they're teaching. And there's parents out there that don't like it either. But what, we have no say? It's going to happen?
Unfortunately, there's parents that don't even know what, and there's even laws that our current assemblyman voted for that would deny parents knowledge of what's happening with their children. It sounds like you're not for that. You want...
No, the parents need to be in control of these schools. There needs to be a visible... Parents need to know what their children are learning.
Transparency.
Yes. But I've noticed the new laws this last year are starting to really take it away from the parents. It's bad enough, like 2017, when schools adopted a rule like for when a child's getting, like having problems in their sexuality and things like that, it states the child can tell the principal, the teacher, the counselor, their friends, but if they don't want their parents to know, nobody can tell their parents. Now, a child cannot make those decisions. A parent always has to be involved. And why can't you tell your parents? Well, if it's because the parents are going to beat them to death, well, then we need to know that. And that parent needs to be counseled with the child. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
If it's because the child knows they're doing something wrong and don't want their parents to know, that's even more why the parents need to know, so they can counsel their child and, give them direction like a parent should be doing to their children until they're an adult.
That's right. The idea that transgenderism, which takes two fold. There is those who at some time have been convinced that they can be anything they want, even though it's not biologically correct. And they go back and forth. There's people who swore they were a girl at 6 and are happily married with 5 children at 26. The other is a medical problem where one of my first real estate clients, Monty, went away to Sweden back in the 60s, wife and 3 children, and he came back as Veronica. He actually had the operation. That's a different transgender for those who really have the operation. Women, sports, and men in claiming they're a girl, you're not for that.
Not at all. In fact, I think children, until they're an adult, that's an adult decision. If they're going to do that, it's an important decision. It's a life decision, and minors shouldn't be making those decisions. I've been really reading up on it, trying to figure out what's going on, and Denmark and Norway, and they've now stopped the practice. Because at first, it was usually males wanting to be females when they were young. And then now it's become more women wanting to be males. And then they're finding out that there seems to be this array of reasons, and they might not be the right reason for these children. So they were just going for it, and now they realize they're doing damage to a lot of these children. And so they've stopped the practice, and I don't know why United States, they're picking it right up, and no, look at the records.
I think one of the laws that our assemblyman voted for would give the social workers the right to take a child away from his parents if the parent objected to the transgender discussion, let alone. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is. And I know somebody who voted yes for that. I definitely would not vote yes. I'd be standing up there with my voice saying, no, that's not right. Because, again, if a child has those feelings, we'll just work with the child. But when they become an adult, if it's still the same thing, they can do what they want, and they're an adult. What you're talking about is taking a child before puberty and doing all this stuff. I know when I was going through puberty, I was pretty emotional and, everything going on with me. Yeah. And I think hormones is a very dangerous thing to start playing with.
Yeah.
And so, no, I think definitely you need to pay attention to the child and why, and and have good discussions and therapy sessions. And I'm hoping that these therapists are learning the right way to counsel children and parents and stuff, because it's like, oh, you want to be that way? Okay. You want to be okay, like anything you want. Children live most of their lives in this little fantasy land, which is because it's a fun. They don't need to know things that are adult level until they start growing up into that. And then you should give it a little at a time. My son has actually told me, Mom, you and Dad never talked to us about sex. Well, until they were older. But it was never mentioned before. And I says, yeah, because you didn't even know about it until you were old enough. And then we told you the responsibility about it and the seriousness and really the right thing of what really happens if you're messing around and whatever. So, and they turned out very good. But I think this transgender thing is becoming an issue. Because, first of all, they say they're going to take the child away. Second of all, then the parents start speaking up about other things, and then they put another law in to counter that. And then the parents start doing this. Oh, now they're going to put a law to counter that. It's very obvious.
Taking away parents' rights.
Yes. Not letting them speak. Sometimes they can't even speak now at the boards. If they talk to a teacher, they can get arrested for harassment. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's not right. It's not America. Things shouldn't be coming from the top down. We're a republic. It's about we the people. It's all about us making this country and keeping this country. Because I believe in the Judeo-Christian Constitution. And I think it's a good Constitution. It's lasted this long. It's valid even today. So it should be us people saying what we want. And then you talk about democracy. Then, the greater of the community then votes. And then it goes up. And then things happen because we said here. But it's not happening because I think there's more people that really don't want this top down coming at us. I don't think they know how to speak up. And I'm hoping that I will meet enough people in this county and then southern part of San Luis Obispo that will hear me and vote for me, because I will stand to what this country is about.
Well, we've let time, it's all your fault. No, it's my fault. We've let time get away. How can people help you and support you in websites or phone?
Yeah, I just started my website. So it has my bio on there. So you can read my bio, but I'm going to start getting my issues that I believe in.
We've been showing it. Say it again.
It's Sari, S-A-R-I, 4, assembly.com is my website.
You're going to stay in that technology, 4. And you take all kinds of support, including moral, physical, money.
Yeah, there's so much that needs to be done and stopped. Things need to be stopped because it's getting really out of control and it's going to affect us all in